Well, 5 years on from virtual bankruptcy, Iceland is quickly becoming the Northern Hemisphere's comeback king. The island nation's banking sector collapsed spectacularly in 2008, with taxpayers making it clear they weren't about to pick up the tab. Hugo Piskunov looks at where that's left the country half a decade on.
Though not a member of the Eurozone or the European Union for years, Iceland was considered the most effective neoliberal free market economy in Europe. That was until its bankruptcy in 2008. Foreign debt spiked, banks closed down, and the national currency plummeted. The World Bank, European Union, and the International Monetary Fund, also known as the Troika, demanded that Iceland pay up. At the time, it meant every citizen would have to pay 100 euros per month for the next 15 years to cover the debt of private bankers. Nationwide protests erupted. Sounds familiar, except unlike in Cyprus, Greece, Portugal and others, these protests made Iceland's president reject the Troika's demands. And the trio went wild, threatening isolation and sanctions, even raising comparisons with Cuba. But Reykjavik stood its ground. At a nationwide referendum, around 90% voted not to pay the debt. In fact, they went even further, starting criminal investigations into why so much money was owed. They even jailed some of the country's top bankers. And while they were at it, ordinary citizens rewrote the constitution, which now obliges the government to keep all work in the public eye, unless it's a matter of national security, of course. Now, for more, earlier I spoke to a professor of political science and one of the people who took part in the revision of Iceland's constitution.
The European Union was insisting that the Icelandic state, the Icelandic taxpayers, were responsible for the debts of private banks. In the end, the case went to an international court. Now, the EFTA court found that Iceland was in the right, that Iceland was not responsible for these payments, and thus refused the claims of the Dutch and the Brits, which they had initially forced.
About the current relations between Iceland and the rest of Europe, are you guys still friends?
They claimed that Iceland would basically be flushed down the toilet and would not be able to sort of re-emerge as an equal partner in Europe, but that has proved false, as Iceland's relationship with Europe and the outside world has normalized, and international investors are coming back to the country, and things have stabilized quite a lot.
The only thing to add here is, sure, there's lots of information on this story in blogs and social networks, but you won't find it in mainstream media. Why? Perhaps to avoid giving ideas to anyone else under pressure.